This is a Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Good morning. Welcome in. Check out our Facebook page. Search the Out of Bounds Show. And Twitter at Bo Bounds. Your SEC Insider hit this morning. It's brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. And the spray and bed liners and lift kits at RPT and Rick's Pro Truck, both Gluckstadt, Madison County. Our guests join us on the Modelo guest line. Modelo is delicious beer. Pair it with a burger, some pork tenderloins, some ribs off the grill. You'll be happy. Modelo in the back porch or patio. Now that's a grand slam. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. You can watch the show right now. Go to YouTube, search Out of Bounds Sports. We want to welcome in our friend Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. And Mike joins us on the Modelo guest line, NFL, LSU Saints insider. And we had a big trade happen in the NFL over the weekend. And, Mike, what did you make of San Francisco, the San Francisco 49ers, and Lynch and Shanahan being so aggressive over this past week, and now all of a sudden they have the number 3 pick in the NFL draft, Mike?
Well, one of the things is that I think the flip of that is all the ammunition now the Miami Dolphins have. I think, man, you look at that, and this was a pretty doggone good football team last year. And now they've got pieces in place to really help out Tua on the offensive side, the football. But with San Francisco, I mean, it's the shot over the bow that for all the talk of, Jimmy G's our guy, that's not accurate. I mean, they're going to go here with Trey Lance. I'd be surprised any other kind of go with it. And I think they'll sort of keep that option open, but they're going to go with a young quarterback here. You got him football minimum wage for a few years now. And so, you can keep Garoppolo, for a season, and then you hand the reins over to Trey in a very similar manner to what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. So it's basically the 49ers telling you without telling you, we know we can get to a certain point with Garoppolo, but for us to win a championship, we need another quarterback, and we think Lance is that guy.
Okay, so do you expect the Jets to take Zach Wilson, Mike?
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, I think it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Because, with Trevor going to Jacksonville and Zach going to the Jets and Trey going to San Francisco, big question mark is what happens at 4. And that may be a target spot for some team looking to get that young quarterback too. And so it's sort of going like it normally goes. I've said this before in this show, I work with 6, sometimes 7 quarterbacks every week during the NFL season. They always have one thing, and they're always right. Nothing trumps quarterbacks.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, it's the position. Either you got one or you're looking for one. There is no gray area there. It's either you got one or you're looking for another one. So I do think you see that, and them understanding when they look at next year's draft that there are a couple guys there that are intriguing, but nothing like this group. So what it does, it really helps out Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Tremendously.
I think Matt Corral is going to emerge as top 2 or 3. I'm not buying Spencer Rattler. I'm not buying the North Carolina guy, Howell. And some of these JT Daniels, and even in the same zip code as Matt Corral, I don't think as far as talent, head to toe, arm, all that. It's going to be interesting to see.
I don't know about JT, because if he's healthy, Bo, I'm just telling you, he came to the Manning camp. This is 2019, He should have been a senior in high school. Remember, he finished early. And so he graduated, I think he had just turned 17 years old. And he was starting for USC. And then he hurt the knee. But, man, he made some throws at that camp that we were all sort of looking at one another. Man, wait till he grows into that body. He plays with a lot of self-confidence. He's got a really good arm. He was not fully healthy last year, but look the difference he made on that team when he walked on that field. I think JT he's a different animal as far as that's concerned. He's got all the skill set that you're looking for. Again, we didn't get to fully see it a year ago because of the fact that he was probably 80%. But his 80% was really good. If he gets an off season where the knee's fine, because that does affect your passing setup and throws and everything else, man, he's got a chance to be special as a player. Ain't no ifs, ands, buts, and maybes about that. He's a special talent as far as throwing the football. And the kid at USC is pretty doggone good too. So again, man, Spencer is a guy. Man, Tim Brando told me he's every bit as good as Kyler Murray.
Interesting.
And and Tim covered him and for maybe 4 or 5 games this year. And we were talking, and he was asking me about when we think about Spencer. I would like to see him with another year, and for him to fully kind of physically get stronger. And he told me, he said, when the day is done, I think he's going to be a better player than Kyler Murray. And, Brando's seen some football in his days. So
I just think Matt Corral's just as talented, if not more so, than a lot of these guys.
Matt, I think with Matt, it's going to be, he's not the biggest guy, okay, in the world. But, you look at that, I think that myth sort of has been broken about you got to be a certain size and that sort of thing. Matt can flat out throw it. I mean, there's no question about it. I think what I'd like to see is another year of him and his decision-making process, under Lane. And, man, listen, I give Lane a lot of credit because of the fact he was able to employ so many. And he took full advantage also of Elijah Moore. I mean, that to me was huge. And he got the tight end involved.
Yeboah
really played well last season.
Yeah.
He was a big target tight end. I think what would really help out Matt is having a running game, because I do think that part of the game is still there, Bo. I look at it last year, early in the season, and I thought Miles Brennan played well for LSU, but their defense and running game wasn't there. That they had no running game. Their offensive line was as soft as toilet paper. I mean, they couldn't block up front, and when you don't have that element, it puts a lot of pressure on that quarterback. But Matt's interesting. He's an interesting football player in a lot of ways because he can flat out sing it. Man, he can sling it. And how well this is all going to progress. But he's got some new receivers this year. Lane will make it work. But his progression in year 2 is going to be important. And, again, he was another guy that 2019 he came to Manning. And those 2 young kids, him and JT, man, they were throwing it, man. And, it was just impressive to watch the young guns, because normally when you see them, when they come here and are working with Peyton and Eli, they're more the junior seniors. These guys are like freshman guys throwing it. And that, to me, that they could hang with some of the best in the country, that was impressive to me.
Interesting. All right, Mike Detillier has been covering the NFL draft for over 30 years. Saints insider, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike joins us on the Modelo guest line as we talk quarterbacks this year, mixing in with next. I think Corral is by far and away, in my opinion. Mike loves JT Daniels too, which is understandable, but I think Matt's the best returning starter, and I don't think it's close. JT is in the mix after that, but we'll see what shakes out. I want to stay with NFL this year. All right, so you got Trevor at 1. You feel like the Jets will take Zach Wilson out at BYU at 2. You feel like Lynch and Shanahan will take Trey Lance at number 3. You just mentioned Atlanta may look to move and do some fun stuff. Who is going to be the 4th, and what does Carolina have to do to get Mac Jones or another QB signal caller, Mike?
They may just sit at that spot, and because I think that they've tried what they've tried to do. I think early on to get Deshaun Watson. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, that has become such a messy situation out in Houston in so many different ways, and so many layers of what's happening there. And I don't know what the legal part is going to happen here with Watson, but there's no way he can return there. There's no way Watson can return to the Texans under any circumstance, so to speak. But again, that's a big I don't know of what's going to happen with Deshaun. And it just seems to mount up every day, the number of people accusing him. So where that's going to fall, I have no idea. But I've always thought Carolina was sort of the team a lot of people weren't talking about, but had the most interest. Because you got an owner, listen, he's a multi-billionaire. Man, don't tell me nothing about building. I want to win now. And is that necessarily with a rookie quarterback? I've always felt he's the guy behind the scenes pushing this hard to go out and get Watson. Now, again, the water's really muddy now on exactly what happens with him and how the NFL will react. And, even if he settles this out of court, I don't know. It's becoming, like I said, murky waters there with Deshaun Watson in a lot of ways. But I've always felt Carolina was the team sort of lurking in the back, waiting for that opportunity, and with some ammunition to go out and get him.
Wow. Okay.
At this stage.
So where would you predict? Well, like you said, Deshaun's got to clean up a lot of stuff, and we don't even know where
to even start with this.
Exactly. So I can't imagine where this is going to go through as far as the legal process, as far as how many he can or settle and blah, blah, blah. All right, what about where do you think Mac – I mean, I think he'll be overdrafted, okay? I think Mac Jones is not Joe Burrow, Mike. He's not. I mean, we like to do that because same division, same conference, whatever.
And he put up similar numbers, because, when you look, you kind of compare if you're just looking at stats, that's not how you compare a player. But I think a lot of people sort of went, man, this is back-to-back years. You got guys like this. He's a different style player, totally, than Burrow. They got one thing in common, though. They're accurate with a threat pass. And, man, that to me is the big sell point for Mac, his accuracy skills. Now, you might say, he's throwing to a bunch of great receivers. Okay, somebody got to get the ball there, right? All right. You could have somebody misfire and he's throwing them open. it's not like this is all timing stuff. He's hitting them and throwing them open. And that was the most impressive part about Mac. No one thought Jones would have this type of year in 2020. I didn't hear a peep even out of Alabama about it. And every week he got better and better and better with his throws. He's a different style player than Joe, and the fact that Joe's a really good athlete.
Yes.
I mean, Joe take off and run with the ball. That's not Mac. Mac's really kind of a box quarterback. He'll stay in that box and throw it. Every once in a while, he'll move a little left, a little bit right. The thing's going to be is eventually they're going to make you uncomfortable in the NFL. They tried with Joe, and, he got hurt. But they're going to make you uncomfortable and how well he reacts to that particular part. And I agree with you. I think for the most part, quarterbacks, they get overdrafted. But, again, it goes down to the position of what you're looking at. And, boy, you put, Mac on the right team, and he doesn't have to cart all the water. And he didn't have to cart all of it at Alabama either. So it just depends on where he ends up at this stage and sort of who becomes the team. This is like, it's not like you're running for the presidential race, okay? You just got to win one state. You don't have to win the electoral college. You just got to convince one team you the guy.
Yeah.
And I think you'll have a couple teams very interested in him because now you sort of have looked and seen what's happened 1, 2, 3.
I think he'll be solid at best in the NFL.
I think he'll be a little bit more than solid, depending on where he ends up. Because, man, Archie Manning and we've talked about this numerous times. Archie was like, all these young quarterbacks, it's all great and fine. You get picked high in the draft, but look who's picking you. Some of the worst teams in the NFL, and he said even worse, some of the worst offensive lines. That's why the 3 spot with San Francisco is pretty good, because I do know one thing. Shanahan's going to protect you, and he's going to give you a running game, and you got some weapons out on the edge, and Kittle being healthy, you got something there. But not everybody's going to be like the 49ers. You got to, like Trevor, he's going to get hit more in the first 2 or 3 games than he got hurt in his time at Clemson total.
That's a good point, Mike. Yeah.
Because I'm just telling you, if they don't do something offensive line-wise, that's going to be rough. It's the same thing with the Jets. There is a reason why they're still looking to replace Joe Namath. I mean, come on, Joe's doing AARP commercials. And, that's the last time that they touched that sort of greatness. So if you can't rebuild your offensive line, and Archie's right about that point, I think doesn't get emphasized enough. Yeah, it's great to get picked in the top 2 or 3 or 4 picks financially. But, man, it's the other stuff around you. Will they build that offensive line? Will they give you the weapons from a running game and passing game standpoint? And because that can break a quarterback, I think, over a course of time. And he should know. Archie should know better than anybody because he was stuck here with a team that couldn't do that either until sort of later on in his career with the Saints when they did have a pretty decent offensive line. And, they had Muncie and Galbraith and Henry Childs and Wes Chandler, and that was pretty doggone good team. The only thing bad with that team was they couldn't play no defense.
Right.
But offensively, they at least kept him upright. And I think that you've seen it break quarterbacks all across the board that, you just mentally and physically kind of get beat up. And it's my biggest concern about Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, that they have to build an offensive line to give him an opportunity. Because if you can, he gives you more than a fighting chance. Because, man, he's one tough dude, and he can sling it. But, you can't throw from the horizontal position. You just can't. You got to be able to do it. And, look, how many people back in January spoke about Patrick Mahomes? Jimmy Johnson making the comment, he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen on a football field. Jimmy's got some backing around that resume. We had Jim Moore on, and Jim made the comment, man, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks throughout the day. Nobody can throw the football like Mahomes and make plays like he can. What happened when his offensive line lost a couple starters at the tackle position? Man, he was running for his life against the Bucs. They had him moving, and I mean, people coming from every angle. So Mahomes got a little bit of a taste of what a guy like Sam Darnold sees every week with the Jets. That's every week for him. And you can say, oh, well, man, Sam Darnold, he's a big bust in New York. Well, play behind that offensive line and see how well you're going to play. It's not easy, and that's why the commitment to build a team around the quarterback has to be there. You just can't drop him in like a parachute drop.
Mike Detillier on the Modelo guest line. Blake, we've got about 1 minute, a minute and a half. You got a quick question with Mike?
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned San Francisco trading up and where Mac Jones fits. So you feel confident that Kyle Shanahan's looking for more mobility and Mac Jones wouldn't go number 3. And I would think Carolina wouldn't get that draft pick at number 4 from an inter-division rival in Atlanta. So does that mean Carolina not being able to get Deshaun Watson with legal issues is the most likely landing spot for Mac Jones at number 8?
I think it's most likely the spot for him, yeah. I think the intrigue team is Atlanta. What do they do? Because now, Matt's up in age, and he can still play. But all I know is watching the Falcons, their defense is El Succo. It's bad. So, you're in a spot here. Do you trade back for extra picks where you can help yourself defensively? Because, man, listen, you got to play defense somewhere along the line. You're getting into these 35 to 33 games that you're losing, and you're finding innovative ways to lose games. So they're going to be a team that I think somebody may be looking for Justin Fields would maybe crawl up to get to 4. And maybe you could peel back a little bit and get some help on the defensive side of football. I don't know if Terry Fontenot, who is here with the Saints, I don't know if he's ready to use that first-round pick on a quarterback and have a redshirt season.
Yeah.
Because he got an impatient owner, too. I mean, he was patient with one coach, but he ain't going to be impatient. He's not going to be patient with a second one.
That's a good point. He was patient with Dan Quinn.
Yeah, he sure was.
All right. Mike Detillier on the Modelo guest line, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, at Mike Detillier on Twitter. Mike, have a super week.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it.
Great stuff on the NFL draft. So that's what Trevor Lawrence won. Zach Wilson from BYU 2. Trey Lance from North Dakota State going to the San Francisco 49ers at 3. And then what do the Atlanta Falcons do at number 4? We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Bank Plus, it's more than a name, it's a promise. Back into some SEC coaching rankings. Coming up next.